Well, good morning and welcome to the Morning Report. Morning Report is a production of fightbackmedia.com, 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 and fightbackmediatv.com. Trust that you are well this Tuesday morning. It's Tuesday, isn't it? Yeah, I actually slept last night, so I don't know what day it is. I normally you guys know that I scour the interwebs and looking for stories to bring you. And today it's going to be a little different. Actually, sort of harkens back to when I started. We bring a story, but not in the way that we have been doing, because I really want to talk to you about what's going on in a way that I hope that you can relate to and comment on, because it's important that this not be just a one-way valve in that sense. That this be a way, something that we can comment on and bang around ideas and thoughts. This is because I think it's really important that we do that. I think that so many people, especially in the on the right, are listening to pundits. I don't think I'm in a pundit class. I'm definitely not in a pundit class like Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson and some of these others. I think I'm in the opinion class. Yeah, I'm not in the pundit class. I don't want people following what I'm saying, and then I want to engage in the conversation, and I think that that's where the electorate, especially the conservative electorate, have missed it. We have missed it because we are not engaging in the conversation, and when we have such easy tools by which to do that, simply commenting on a YouTube video, commenting on an Instagram video, commenting on a Rumble video, doing a video yourself. Well, all you need is one of these things and off. Well, yeah, one of these things and off you go. Doesn't really take a whole lot to do. Doesn't take a studio. Doesn't take great lighting, which I do not have. It doesn't take, one of these cheap, cheesy backgrounds for Zoom. It doesn't take any of that. Just this, staring into this for a few minutes. To engage. And I think that so much happens. I mean, the left feels like they are so empowered to do whatever they want, because what they've learned is that there won't be any consequences or pushback. And I think that that's why we see so much, and we see that the left is just going hog wild in their stuff, and that's why we see their opinions, and that's why we see their agenda. We see it all the time. It is being, quote, pushed down our throats because there's nothing to stop it. There's no balance. And we could say that, well, social media, bans conservatives. Well, okay. I have had my struggles with social media, Facebook, YouTube. Yes. I've had my struggles with them and continue to. But so what? So what? So they're not, not cheering me on. Not many people are. And that's okay. And I've learned in my 62 years, it doesn't matter if people are cheering you on or not. If you believe that what you're doing is the right thing to do, then you should go ahead and do it. Whether people, are cheering you on or not, you have to go ahead and do that. So what I want to talk to you today is about a couple of issues. One is about the 2024 election. I think that's important, and what's actually happening there. And I want to get your thoughts about it. So in the meantime, I'm going to take a little break, and we'll be back with more of the Morning Report, a production of fightbackmedia.com, 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 and fightbackmediatv.com, right after these messages.
So would you, Tucker Carlson, be in favor of restrictions on the ability of trucking companies to use this sort of technology specifically to, sort of artificially maintain the number of jobs that are available in the trucking industry?
Are you joking? In a second. In a second. In other words, if I were president, when I say to DOT, to Department of Transportation, we're not letting driverless trucks on the road, period. Why? Really simple. Driving for a living is the single most common job for high school educated men in this country. I don't want to put 10 million men out of work because you're going to have 10 million dead families, and the cascading effect from that will wreck your country.
In North Korea, we were divided based on what our ancestors did. Like if my great-grandfather was a capitalist and landowner, they say your blood is tainted, your genetics is oppressive. And now they say whites, being white, you're oppressive to other people. And exact same tactic and the obsession on what we can say, what we cannot say, like North Korea. In North Korea, we get executed. In America, if you say the wrong thing, you lose your job, you lose your character and dignity, your livelihood is ruined. So of course, we are not North Korea, but we are getting there. So at some point, we need to turn back.
Welcome back. I am living, and I've lived actually all of my life and most of my entire life here in the state of Florida. I think that Ron DeSantis is probably the best governor we've ever had. We have had many, many challenges here in the state of Florida because of hurricanes and the like, but I've not seen an organized system, especially in fighting all you have to fight during major hurricanes, like that have happened better than when Ron DeSantis was governor. I've just not seen anything better. Normally, our governors are pretty good. Florida has this really weird relationship with their governors. We are goo goo gaga over our governors normally, maybe with the exception of the later Charlie Crist. But Floridians are pretty goo goo gaga over their governors. Bob Graham, and on and on. So. During the thing, this person was being held. Now please think about this. Please think about this past your loyalties. This person here behind me, Ron DeSantis, was being hailed as the anti-establishment, stick it in their face, screw Fauci, Birx, Biden, dude, right? Just that was the dude, right? We're going to open our state. We're going to do this. We're not going to force people to take them, and lose their jobs. We're not doing that in Florida. And people were like, Ron DeSantis is badass. We love Ron DeSantis in Florida. Blah, 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 right? Well, a lot of us knew that because of that, Ron DeSantis would be looking to maybe run for president. I have always been a fan of governors being president. I think it ought to be in the Constitution. I don't think you should be able to be a president without having been a governor, at least one term. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. It's because you have run something. And especially if you're in a state that has a bicameral way of government, you've already dealt with budgets, you've already dealt with the House, you've already dealt with the Senate, albeit at a smaller level. But you've already done that. So now you're moving from the quote minor leagues to the major leagues, right? And I think that's a skill that is sorely missing when you have someone like a senator. Barack Obama was a senator. Barack Obama was never an executive of a state. Barack Obama never had to put together a budget. Barack Obama is, and I'm not saying that George Bush was actually a governor, but I'm not saying that Joe Biden is any different because Joe Biden was a senator. Because they didn't have to put together budgets, they didn't have to do any of the other stuff. They could move, and it's the same thing with Donald Trump. They could move purely on agenda. Purely on agenda. And I don't necessarily think that's the best way to go. I don't. Compare and contrast. Barack Obama gets into office, and it seems after a while, especially the second term, this flood of executive orders. And I distinctly remember conservatives and people on the right saying, well, he's not a king, and these things need to be run through Congress, and blah 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 blah. Right? I agree. Donald Trump gets elected, spends his first morning as president writing a whole bunch of executive orders. An executive order is an executive order. Now, there is no legislation that's going to be attached as being written, no, just executive orders. His Majesty says, decrees this. And one of the first things I said early on, I was on WTMP on Porch Talk Radio. My dear friend Eddie Adams Jr. Was the host. He has since gone on to glory. That's Black for he died. And on his program as a contributor, and that's one of the very first things I said. And it's because Donald Trump was elected on agenda. Feelings. Feelings. Nothing more than feelings. Barack Obama was elected on feelings. Nothing more than feelings. Joe Biden was elected on feelings. Nothing more than feelings. No voting record really to speak of, especially at the administrative or executive level, just feelings, right? I think this sort of set up a problem. I was always of the mind that Donald Trump was agnostic to a lot of, especially the social issues of the day, and basically would mention or say or support whoever was the loudest for that day. Feelings, right? And I think and he tapped into a whole plethora of feelings, but this time feelings on the right? And because he did that, and because he pushed back at the press, because he wasn't in their club, a lot of Republicans or people who were voting Republican or anti-Democrats were caught up and still are. Feelings. Now, what I want you to do today is I'm asking you to do something very, very difficult. I'm asking you to get out of your feelings. And let's look at this thing that's happening. There is talk that Donald Trump is going to be indicted one more time by the Secretary of Georgia, the prosecutor in Georgia, for some sort of election tampering, right? One more time. So what the opponents of Donald Trump are doing they're trying to tie this dude up in so much legal stuff. They're trying to get him arrested again to keep him from having a successful campaign. This is some banana republic, awful, terrible behavior. And whether you're on the left or on the right, you have to see this. You have to be able to see this. That if this one dude, this one guy, is that much trouble to the left, then you have to start asking yourself why. You have to start asking yourself why. Now, the other Republicans who are running, they're running because they believe they have a chance to win. And yes, in order to be, I think, a good Republican or a good conservative or a good citizen or a good person in the electorate, I think that we should consider people who are running, what they bring to the table. No doubt, I am a fan of my governor. I think that he could do a good job. I think he's done a great job here in Florida. Now, the relationship that Governor DeSantis has with ex-President Trump just like most relationships people have with Trump, are tenuous at the best, complicated at the very best. Complicated. I don't know how many times that Trump has punched and hugged Graham, Jeff Graham, I think his name is from, yeah. I don't know how many times he has hugged him and punched him. Yeah, so the relationships are very, very complicated. And I think the relationship between Governor DeSantis and President Trump is a complicated relationship. I think that a lot of people in the electorate have decided that they are on team DeSantis, or decided that they're on team Trump, and what they don't understand is that their relationship is hard. That they're not even sure. DeSantis has said what's happening to Trump is horrific. Now, that hasn't stopped him from running for president. And I think a lot of people are like, what? If you think what's going on, then you should stop and you should support him. Well, that's not the entirety of what's happening. It's a lot of it, but it's not the entirety of what's happening. And that may not be the way to support Trump. See, that's why I want you to comment. It may not be the way to support Trump. The way to support Trump is to continue the process. Continue the electoral process, the very same process that the left is trying to stop and trying to interfere with. It's to continue. Yeah, we see, excuse me. I hear a lot of mention about polls. Polls, the polls say this, the polls say this. I'm like, what, the Polish? The Polish are talking? Why the Polish involved in it? But the polls say this, the polls say that. We are more than a year away from the general election. The polls are going to say a lot of things. Let me help you. Because I like you. You don't like me, but I like you. I'm taking my medicine. I'm being a good patient. I'm taking my medicine. The polls say that Governor DeSantis is slipping, and Vivek Ramaswamy or Mike Pence or Chris Christie or Nikki Haley or whatever are gaining ground. I'm old enough to remember when Donald Trump was getting crushed in the polls. Anybody else remember that? Crushed. Now, in the primary, my neighbor across the street asked me what was going on. He is on the left. He knows that I am, quote, on the right. He knows that I ran as a Republican for county commission. And we've had more than one discussion about politics. He says that people should know that I'm a nice guy, just my politics are wonky. Okay. You know what? I'll take that. That's fine. I'll take that. With neighbors, I am happy to take that. Yeah, I'm a nice guy, but my politics are wonky. Okay. I'll say the same about you. I'll say the same about him. But I told him, and he remembered. I said, listen, if Donald Trump gets past January of the election year, it's going to be Katie bar the door. And he would have the momentum to win, not only win the nomination, but he might end up being president. And he said, what about the polls? It's what the polls are saying when people aren't in their little voting booth. But what we have to understand is the polls don't matter. They just don't matter. They haven't mattered in a long time. Where is this? The poll said there was going to be this big red wave in 2022. Where was this big red wave? Where was it? Where was this big red tsunami? All the polls said it was going to happen. Did it happen? Not so much. And it's funny. after all the polls that would happen and then it didn't happen, a lot of you ran to blame this person or that person or the other, instead of thinking, well, maybe, you know, we got burned and, you know, we got misled by the polls in 2020. Maybe in 2022, or I mean, in 2016, we got misled by the polls, and somehow in 2020 or 22, you thought suddenly the polls were going to be spot on. That doesn't make any sense. And now you still think the polls are going to be spot on? Haven't you learned, for whatever reason, whether people or who are getting on these polls by telephone or on Twitter or whatever, or X, whatever it is, however they're accessing these polls, are lying, or the questions are being asked in a way, or the reports are just, I don't know, straight up lies, whatever, I don't know, whatever, that you're going to toss all your hope, all your aspirations into a poll after this time? I'm not. I am not. I am a person who says, we'll see what happens. You know, when my favorite football team is drafting all these, you know, all these players, you know, and people say, oh, we're going to the Super Bowl this year. Well, we got blah, blah. I'm like, let's just wait. Let's see if we can make the playoffs. I think we can win next week. That's fish oil. Fish oil is lovely. And this is carvedilol, my high blood pressure. Listen, if you've got high blood pressure, yeah, back off on the salt and all the stuff they tell you to do. Try to get some exercise in, all that stuff. But if you're on medication, take your medication. Just take it. At the same time, you can use natural means at the very same time. You can exercise. You could, take whatever you need to take. Back off the salt if you're salt sensitive, all that stuff. Do all of it. Do all of it. Whatever. Excuse me. There we go. But in any case, so the polls are or have not been reliable at all. So when someone says, well, this person is leading by this much in the polls, remember, there has been not one single ballot cast. Not one single primary has happened. Not one. So when someone says, well, this person is leading, it's like saying, the Bears are already beating the Packers in their first matchup. It hasn't happened yet. It's not going to happen for a month. It's like saying the Packers are leading in the second matchup between the Packers and the Bears. They haven't had the first yet. Neither team has played another team in an opposite jersey yet. It hasn't happened. It hasn't happened, so there really isn't any reason to put a lot of weight in the polls. So as you are commenting on social media, as you are commenting here in the comments here on this video, please comment. Please like, share, subscribe, comment. I'd appreciate that. Understand that citing polls, citing 300 likely voters out of 200 million voters, not a great sample, and it's far enough away from the election that it means nothing. Absolutely nothing. So, Willie, what am I supposed to do? And listen, investigate, ask questions, be an informed electorate. Do that. I think I've done that. And in the primary, in the Florida primary, which which we are months and months away from. I think that if things stay the same, I will throw my support behind Governor DeSantis. If somehow Governor DeSantis does not win the Republican nomination, which is possible, then I will throw my support behind, if nothing changes, whoever the Republican nominee is, within reason. Within reason. But what if it's Trump? Yeah, probably. If Trump wins, I'll do what I did before. I've only voted for Governor DeSantis once in his second term. I didn't vote for him for his first term. I've only voted for him once. I'm trying to get him on the show. I contacted his people. They don't seem to be interested. Okay. Maybe. But hopefully I can get him to spend 5 minutes with me. Answer some of the hard questions, the AP curriculum, the Black History curriculum, COVID response, continued COVID response, Disney, Trump, and the election. So if because I tweeted this to them, to the DeSantis forum. If you have comments, you know how to get a hold of me. All right, we got to get out of here, make room for somebody else. So until we see you again, go out there and learn something, love somebody, and for goodness sakes, take care of yourself. Again, my name is Willie Lawson. This has been a production of fightbackmedia.com, 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 and fightbackmediatv.com. We see you again. Take care of yourself. Peace.